All right, thanks everybody for joining me here for the trimmed version of our Nationals team set from 2019. I didn't edit anything out. I just kind of trimmed all the dead space out to give you a more streamlined look at our set from last year. Part of it's for our benefit to go back and kind of review what we thought we did well and what we did poorly, and kind of look at our strategy going forward and coming into this year. The tournament starts here in about a month and a half. And even though we don't bowl until the end of June, it's never too early to start practicing for Nationals. It's just an exciting tournament to go to, and getting ready for it is most of the fun. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to talk the whole time here. Probably I'll just get started rambling and won't ever shut up. But I'm going to try to offer some constructive commentary, analysis, some criticism probably. Just to help us, number one, get a good feel for what happened and what we could improve on, and give you an idea what worked, what didn't work, maybe help you out when you're getting ready to go this year. Like I said, the tournament's about a month and a half away, and it's just way too much fun to not start talking about it already. If you remember, I did upload the unedited versions of both of these, but those get kind of long to kind of weed through, and sitting there for 3.5 hours watching through something is a little rough and might be hard to stay focused, pay attention. But this is just a little more streamlined look at it. I just isolated each of the individual shots from everybody. I didn't cut anything out. This is every single shot from every person that bowled on the team, and I will talk about some of the individuals. Chaz Brewer here, the lefty that's getting up on 31. He's the guy that organized the teams. Him and his wife Stacy also run. I think Stacy does the majority of I think Stacy's kind of the one in charge of the Greater Ozarks tournament in Springfield, Missouri. I think they've been going 76. This is 76 or 77 years in 2020. So. Might even be more than that. It might be 77, 78. But that tournament runs almost as long as Nationals does. It gets started a little bit earlier and ends a little bit earlier, but I think it's the longest running, probably most popular open just tournament, regular tournament, aside from Nationals in the country. And I think that most of you watching have probably gone to it, or probably go to it every single year, just like most people plan years around Nationals. The Ozarks is another one that you just don't want to miss. So definitely already got that planned out, matter of fact. We like going to the area in general, and we normally take a few days to go visit Branson too. It's just a really nice area, and of course it's a very well run tournament. They have a lot of pros that show up too. It's a good mix of everybody. It's just one of the better tournaments out there to go to. So once we flip back around to the top of the lineup, I'll start talking about some of the individuals. Now, we did bowl one of the team practice sessions the night before, and we had a couple different strategies in mind. We all got there day and a half early, and watched quite a bit of bowling in the stadium before getting our strategies ready for the team practice session. So on one lane, well, before I go into our strategy here, I'll talk a little bit about the lane conditions. They're pretty similar from year to year. The doubles and singles pattern is usually longer. It's usually in the 42 to 45 foot length area. The team pattern is usually about 37 to 40 feet long. It's typically the flattest and the toughest one. And so there's usually a little bit more strategy that goes into the team pattern than there is the doubles and singles pattern. The doubles and singles pattern is usually just tight front to back, meaning that you want to keep your angles closed, you want to keep your angles tight. There's usually a little bit of room from left to right. If you want to play a little bit further right, you can. If you want to play a little bit deeper, you can. But the team pattern is normally tight both side to side and front to back. If you miss, I mean, there's there's a very defined area that you need to burn up on the lane, or that you need to try to transition, kind of get a track built, and then you kind of need to rely on that area, which is normally about the 5 board, is where you want to try to beat up. You want to try to transition or take the oil off the lanes from about 3 to 5, and then you want to use the 5 board as kind of your bumper, or basically try to turn it into a house shot. But you can't really go too far inside, because that creates bad transition for later in the block, because it is shorter, it does play fairly dry. And so you don't want to, there's certain areas on the lane that you don't want to play because of how the transition makes the shot play later. So I think you really do need a pretty defined plan going into the team set, and sometimes there's some different nuances year to year, but generally they stay pretty similar from year to year. So going into the team practice session, because of how flat this shot plays, we had a couple different strategies that we tried on each different lane. So of course we had a pair on the team practice session, and on one lane we tried to do the regular strategy of burning 3 to 5 with big hook and sanded equipment to 500 grit or something. See how quickly we can get the oil off the lanes. We did set up a watch with a timer to kind of simulate getting through practice, and then what we could expect once the first game started. And on the other lane, we actually had urethane and plastic going straight down 13, 14, 15 to try to build some hold on that lane. And so we were going to see what the better strategy was, trying to burn a bumper to the right or trying to create some hold down the lane in the middle. I think, and then once we got that, once we got out of practice, we each bowled 2 games, I believe, and kept track of every single shot that we threw on the left lane and the right lane to see what we thought the better strategy was. And overwhelmingly, it's so touchy out to the right. I mean, if you're in just a little bit, 6 or 7, the ball is going high, crossing over, and if you get it out to 4, even 3, unless you really roll it, unless you've got slower ball speed and you roll it, it's just not going to make it back. And I think that you can see on several of these shots that even though we put in a lot of work in practice, it was still pretty tight to start off with. So building some hold in the middle of the lane was, it didn't work as well as creating some friction or a little bit more predictability to the right. And I think that, as you can see, that shot on the left lane there, he rolls it really well. I don't know if I flagged that one. Yeah, I got just a little bit slow with that one, and so that's what I'm talking about. Even though I hit where I wanted to on the right side of the lane there, I hit my target. It was just a little bit too slow, and that's what I mean by it being tight, both left to right and front to back. You could probably get away with being a little bit slow on the doubles and singles pattern, or the transition that you're going to encounter from playing maybe a little bit deeper if that's where you're more comfortable. And I think that I might do this with the doubles and singles. The doubles and singles video, that was pretty labor intensive, and I think that it's a little bit simpler. You just kind of have to hit what you're aiming at on the doubles and singles pattern. It usually opens up quite a bit easier, and it's not so dependent on strategy on that pattern, because you normally got to play more closed angles anyway, no matter where you're playing on the lane. So we found that overwhelmingly building a bumper to the right was the best way to go, and as we get about halfway through this first game, you're going to see it start to get a little bit more consistent and open up more. Now, the interesting thing is that about half of us started out with urethane on the fresh, and there's a big group that says, well, you never use urethane on this because it's really dry and flat to start off with, and what you're going to do is you're going to create an oil slick right in the middle of the back end, and then you're going to have all kinds of hang, and you're going to have all kinds of, it's just going to create a nightmare. But what it actually did for us, and what the strategy ended up working out a little bit better than we thought it would. So we ended up having a lot of us start off with reactive balls, and that was they were just too touchy. No matter how smooth they were, I was using a pin down, you know, a 5-inch pin down IQ Tour that wasn't flaring very much at all, and it was about as smooth as I could. It was about as smooth as I could manage out of anything, and it's still a little touchy left to right. And I know everything looks shiny here on video, but everybody's stuff was no higher than 3,000 grit. So the ball on the right lane on 32 that Bruce just threw, that was 3,000 grit. The shiny looking IQ Tour that I'm throwing like there, that was 1,000 grit when we got started. So if you think, well, your surfaces are too shiny, no, it was just the lights. The lights and the glare and everything make everything look shinier than they really were. So we really were using some pretty dull equipment. But what ended up happening is that we found that urethane created a lot better look on the lanes. It was a lot smoother. It was a lot more predictable. And what ended up happening is that those of us that were using the stronger reactive equipment, we did continue to burn the track there on about the 345 board where we wanted it, and the urethane use calmed the back ends down for us. So it was a pretty remarkable thing that we created a kind of a bumper for everybody, and the guys throwing pitch blacks and the purple hammers created a shim down lane for us. So you're going to see that once we get into the third game, we've got a pretty wide open shot. I mean, it might be the most area that I've ever had on a team pattern at Nationals, period. Now, naturally, Chaz over there, Mr. Brewer, was on his own on the left side of the lane. He's pretty good, though, and they're used to that. So he did help out a lot with our strategy. So I think when you're on the left side, things are a lot more complicated and a whole lot simpler at the same time. There's not a whole lot of strategy to be had on the left side of the lane. You just have to focus on your angles. Angles are huge on the left side of the lane. You have to focus on getting the angles right, and you also have to just make shots. And so I think from his perspective, he's got a lot of experience. He knew what he was doing, and so he was trying to help us out because it's a little bit more complicated on the right side of the lane because of the transition factor, and having to stay on top of that and create workable transition. So he did help us out quite a bit with that and try to keep us organized and focused. I think it was a little game saver from me here picking up that spare, because it really went pretty poorly for me and one of the other guys on our team. Let me see. Like, I can start talking about some people. Chaz, like I said, Chaz Brewer, the lefty, was the one that put the teams together, and he really put a pretty good group of people together. We all ended up working out really well with our games and the way we like to play the lanes. That all ended up working out fantastic. But as you can see, even when it's not really going that well, or everybody's laughing, and Chris Seagraves here on lane 31, he had this thing where, if he caught a break or something like that, he'd come back and give you the Richard Nixon, which is probably not the Richard Nixon. It's probably something else. But yeah, the little. But everybody stayed pretty loose and helped everybody out, and nobody got mad at somebody when they had a couple bad frames or threw a bad game or something. And it was just everybody worked well together, and it was nobody got like super frustrated or super crazy one way or the other. We were all kind of even keel level, and it was probably one of the most stress-free sets at Nationals I can remember, even though it didn't really go that well for several of us. And you can see Ramsden here getting into purple urethane after the several balls that he tried in the first part of the game. Like I said, everybody ended up migrating to urethane at some point. I ended up going to a ProMotion because we went late enough last year that the ProMotion had just come out and we were able to use it. And so I was able to take a ProMotion, and that is very urethane-esque. So I ended up using that in the last game at a 5.25 inch pin, or 5-inch pin down IQ Tour is virtually urethane too. So it just blended the lane really well, and the transition it gave us was just pretty amazing because there's an abundance of friction on the team pattern, and they were using the Fire lane conditioner, and that's a little outside. They were using the Fire lane conditioner, and normally that plays super dry to begin with. So even though it was 28 and I think it was 28 mils, 28 and a half, somewhere in that area, it played high friction, and because it's only 38 feet, I think 38, 39 feet, it just played dry, and so the urethane actually helped push some of that oil down the lane and give us some hold and give us a comfortable shot. As you can see there, Chance getting it out there, wheeling the pitch black. But like I said, as the set went on, everybody that wasn't using urethane already, if I had a urethane ball at that tournament, if I had a urethane ball at the time, I'd have pulled it out too. But I do have a urethane ball. I'm probably going to have two of them because I'm sure that the pitch purple and I'm probably going to have a urethane bag, pitch black, Pro Motion, pitch purple, or when we go to nationals here in the next, I think it's still another. Yeah, it's a good 5 months away, but it's hard not to get excited just sitting here watching this because it's just fun. It's just way too much fun, and we do have a little bit of team turnover next year. There's a couple of the guys that aren't coming back, and with the rules about collegiate players and PBA members and whatever else, that kind of made it tough going forward. But we do have most everybody back. I think me, Bruce, Chance, Chaz Brewer, Ramsden, and Dallas. So we got 6 of us coming back. We have a few new faces that are pretty good friends, and I think that we're going to get a couple ringers going with us too this year, hopefully. So Austin Bolds, Kevin Fanner, if you're watching this, you guys got to come with us. It was fun. But I think, as you can see, as we're moving around a little bit here, there's a little bit too much friction, a little bit too much hook. There's a good spare there by Connor. And everybody stayed pretty even keel. Nobody fell to pieces, and I think that we didn't have any nerves. We had a couple people that were a little tight. I was definitely really tight. But I think that we just didn't throw enough good shots. The first game's tough for everybody. The kids team, as we called them, the younger team actually shot a pretty good score the first game. They shot 1,040 or 1,050 or something. We'll see the scoreboard here. But they shot a really good game the first game, and I think we both kind of flip-flopped. Our team shot like 870 or something, so it was a pretty rough game. It was mostly me and Ramsden's fault. I think he had just a rough game. He shot $130, and I shot $150 or something. And so we were just a little slow out of the gate, and then we got it together in the second game and shot 1050 or something like that, and they struggled a little bit, and we both ended up at almost 3,000, so the strategy definitely worked. We just didn't make enough good shots. And like I said earlier, once we get down to the third game and you see how wide open the shot really did get on the right side of the lane. I can't speak for Chaz over there, but the right side of the lane got pretty wide open. It got about as open as you can hope for or expect on this pattern. So we just didn't make enough good shots. And I think you can see that we're starting to move around a little bit and kind of fiddling with ball changes and angle changes. And this pattern is just ridiculously tight all over the place. And so we were kind of fishing around a little bit, and most people settled on urethane, and that was just a flat flag. So that was always good. That'll help out missing the makeables. Oh, man, and that'll hurt your soul a little bit. Whew. Yeah. But yeah, nobody really got pissed. Nobody really got upset or excited or anything. It's kind of disappointing to miss some, just not quite. It's already tough enough, and then when you don't get the hits, and then you maybe miss an easy spare or something like that, it's just kind of crushing. But I think everybody's struggling a little bit with there was a little bit of hard transition. I think we started moving inside a little bit quicker than we should have. We should have stayed home a little bit longer and worked at it. But that's something that I notice at Nationals quite a bit, is that, the plan is in effect until somebody sees the first ball hook a little bit too much, and then panic mode kind of sets in. And there's a good pickup by Chaz Nelson there. We had several really good spare attempts here, so nobody got too panicky. But everybody stayed pretty level-headed, and we didn't make huge jumps. I think we just started making moves a little bit too soon. We didn't focus long enough on the transition. We started focusing too much on what was happening up on the scoreboard, and that's not really the best thing to do on the team shot. You kind of just focus on the plan, see what you can get the first game, keep yourself out of trouble, and then the second and third game is when you can start trying to move around and start putting the real scores up on the board. I think my arm was flying too much. From a personal standpoint, I just got tight. I spent a lot of time. I spent several months practicing a couple times a week before we went out there. I felt really good. And then it's one of those, there's a difference between being nervous and tight. Being nervous is when you kind of can't concentrate, and I knew that was just a straight flag right off my hand, but I didn't want to throw straight at it and miss it. But, hook at it and miss it too. That'll do just as well. And I'm steaming a little bit over there right now, but a couple mismakeables and just generally being too tight, not making great shots. And like I said, there's a difference between being nervous and being tight. Being nervous is when you can't really focus. You're just kind of jittery. You're maybe a little bit too anxious, a little bit too overexcited, and you just can't quite settle down and focus on the shot. Now, getting tight is when you don't have the nerves there, but you're so focused on doing well, or you know what you're doing. The plan's working, everything's looking great, and you're just trying to make the best shot you can. Being tight is just trying a little bit too hard. And I think that's what happened. Is I felt really good going into Nationals this year, and I thought, you know what, if I don't bowl well this year, then it would be pretty sad, pretty unfortunate, because I put the work in. I wasn't nervous. I was excited. I was ready to go. I was prepared, and then it was too much. I couldn't relax. I couldn't just throw the shots and let what happens happen. And there were several of the teammates that were pretty good about that. Chaz Brewer and Dallas here, the guy in the red shirt here, the red polo on 32 right now. Those guys are past the nerves. They're past the tightness. They bowl a lot of big stuff. They put a lot of money down every time they go out, and so they know that they're just going to go out and they're going to execute, and they're going to let whatever happens. They're just going to try to stay on top of it and come back and make the best shot that they can. So they're both in full control of what's going on the whole time here. I've still only really been doing tournaments more often for about 3 to 4 years, and so hopefully I can get into the kind of the even keel state here before too long. I don't know how much money you have to blow and how much you have to bowl bad to get past the nonsense, but hopefully I'm to the point where I'm going to start settling down here a little bit. And I had some really good tournaments last year. Granted, they were on house shots, but even then, tournaments have a way of kind of getting you amped up and worked up, and you put a little bit of money in brackets, and that kind of raises the stakes, and you just got to find a comfortable, happy place where you're like, you know what, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you don't match up. Sometimes you don't bowl well. That doesn't mean you're a bad bowler. You need to quit or do anything different. It just means that sometimes it just wasn't your day. Okay, so as we look at the scores here, this will be up here for a minute. We had a pretty rough game, so 870, and mostly my fault and Ramsden's fault that first game. Everybody else kept it pretty good. Dallas started off with a strong effort, and the other team, even though they had a little bit of, it was a little bit rough there in the 10th frame. 1040 first game at Nationals is, I mean, that's getting you excited right there. That's because the team pattern's only going to get easier if you break the lanes down right. And we did break the lanes down right. So I think that we just got a little bit stuck in the second game transition here. And I think most of the time, on most shots, you don't adjust quickly enough. I think that we all adjusted a little bit too quickly. And like I said earlier, we just didn't stay home long enough. We didn't follow the plan long enough. There's a good attempt by Quentin there on the left lane, but maybe I'll talk about a few of the bowler styles that we got going on here. Once we get to the top of the lineup again, we all have fairly on the higher side of rev rates. We have a lot of guys that like to roll the ball. Chance here was rolling a pitch black. Quentin was rolling a purple hammer. Bruce really straps on the ball, but he does get a pretty good roll on it, even though he's on the higher side speed-wise. The revs and the roll he gets on the ball matches up with it, so he's pretty rev speed matched. Connor likes to roll the ball. Ramsden is a little bit the guy in the striped, the white and gray striped. He's a little speed dominant, but I think the same thing happened for me, or happened for him that happened for me. He was just a little bit tight. He gets pretty wound up, pretty excited and ready to go, and I think it was just a little bit overamped to start the game up, but once he gets locked in, he's deadly. I mean, there's plenty of times where I've seen him bowl terrible at tournaments, and other times where he just runs away with the entire thing. So, Chris Seagrave's there. He likes to roll the ball too. Quentin definitely likes to roll the ball there. Chaz Nelson here. He's got pretty quick feet, but and see, that's the thing. He knew that he got that. Yeah, he got that a little bit inside, but all the urethane that we were throwing built us a nice little shim in the middle there. Plus, we were getting the guys that were still playing out further right. And so urethane was getting us some hold, and we were also building some hook on the gutter. And so the shot opens up really nicely here, about halfway point of the second game. The lanes actually start getting really nice, and I think the funny thing was that the urethane, some of the urethane guys were playing deeper than the resin guys were. So where you see I'm basically right on top of where the guys are with the urethane right there, and I started moving left. I started moving left way too soon. If I'd had a urethane ball, I would have gone to it, should have gone to it. But yeah, just some little spare missteps here and there. I did open every single 10th frame, so that hurt. I can't remember. I think I shot 570, so even though I struggled, even though I didn't really feel like I got comfortable or I made a couple, I might have made 3 or 4 good shots the first 2 games combined, and then I think you can see Connor there, the ball didn't quite make it back, and so I think that's why I was saying everybody was moving right, or moving left just a little bit too soon. Chance is finally starting to get the ball's starting to pull up and get flush for him. Dallas had a good look the first game. The good look continues, and he keeps making good shots. Dallas had a really great set, and he's one of those guys that he stays aggressive with the ball, but he rolls it too. So there's a nice little break on the spare. But you can just tell in watching Chaz the lefty here and Dallas that they they really are on top of things. They know what they're doing. They're the most even keel of all of us. They really did help everybody kind of keep calm and figure things out the whole time. So it's always nice to have the experience and the help and the the different viewpoints and perspectives on certain things, and try to just not put too much into it. But I think that they knew that everybody that we had is pretty good. They know what they're doing, and I think every once in a while people don't need, oh, we'll do this or do that or think about it more. They just need to be settled down, and I think that's the biggest thing that those guys did, is they offered little suggestions here or there if we were just not doing things the right way, if we needed to change things. But more often the comment was just, take a breath, think about it just a little bit more. Everything's going fine, just make a better shot. Just the kind of reassurance there, I think, really helped everybody be as comfortable as possible. And when you have better teammates in the first place, everybody's pretty confident in everybody else's abilities, and so that if you have a bad frame or a couple bad frames, your team's going to pick you up. And Connor crosses over there, and like I said, I think we just moved. We just got a little bit too deep, a little too quick. Chance is starting to heat up now here. They've got a little bit more, the urethane guys have a little bit more consistency out there to the right. We got a little bit of shim in the middle, not quite enough, and so we were starting to bring our break points in a little bit too much, a little bit too quick. But it's hard to, when you start seeing the ball overhooking, and it's hard to not inch left a little bit, and there's just a little bit of misfortune on the. Like I said, it was just some shots here and there. We missed a couple easy spares, and even the ones that bowled well, we missed some easy spares, and we didn't make enough good shots overall. I mean, if you go back and look at this and we pick up at least most of the makeables, I mean, you're going to miss something every once in a while. Even the pros do, but if you're a little bit better on the missed makeables, we should have been higher than what we were. I had several that I missed. I had a couple easy ones there in the first game, and then I opened every 10th frame, and they were all. I think the first game might have been a split, but the next two. In this game I flag a 10, and in the last game I flag a 7. So I missed probably 4 or 5 makeables, easy makeables, that I just overthought. There's a good shot by Quentin. Aaron here was just a little too pumped up. He missed some easy stuff, but I think he starts settling in here the last couple games. Where's the 7-pin when you need it? I think I started cheating left. That's a pretty good shot, though. Yeah, there we go. I started cheating left a little bit too soon, but it let me roll the ball a little bit more, and so I think that aside from the 10th frames, I think I had a couple pretty good games here, games 2 and 3. There's a terrible break for Bruce there. That was a great shot, and sometimes that stuff gets into his head a little bit. I think that's just wanting to show that you know what you're doing, wanting to show that you belong, and he's like, yeah, you see what happened there, but that wasn't. Everybody else watching is going to say, oh yeah, that's a terrible break. That was a great shot, and definitely didn't deserve that. But sometimes it doesn't make you feel better, because you still gotta open up on the scoreboard. And the big thing between the more experienced guys and the younger guys is that sometimes you can start going the wrong direction a little too fast. And there's a good recovery by Dallas there, picking up the little mini washout. But sometimes the bad frames can kind of compound themselves. You get a little bit too worked up about trying to bounce back from it, and It's a little bit... and another break getting that 10 to go late, but sometimes a couple bad frames can tighten you up, and the better bowlers just think, oh, well, I can just throw a turkey here and erase that. So it's just the confidence factor in being able to bounce back, and that one's just a little bit outside by Chaz, but him and Dallas are both pretty good about forgetting bad shots. So, and you can see that we've gotten a couple nice breaks here, but they used to say, well, you can't practice carry. I believe that that's completely wrong. You absolutely can practice carry, because carry is a product of having the right ball in your hands, being in the right place, throwing the ball the right way, being matched up. That's when you're going to kick the 10s and trip the 4s and roll the 2 pins. That's what lets you know that you're in the right place doing the right things. The ball will let you know what the lanes are doing, but the pins will let you know what the ball is doing. So if you're in the right place doing the right things, you're going to get the breaks. And so that's one of those higher level things that if you're getting tapped a lot or you're getting bad breaks or something like that, I mean, and that 9 pin there was totally my fault. You can see that I stood up on it instantly. I know that I flagged my arm a little bit too much. I threw a little bit slow, and I was hoping that it wasn't going to be through the nose. Luckily, I just left the 9 pin there. Most people would look at that and say, oh my God, what a rough break, you left the 9. And off my hand, I'm going, please don't big 4. So there we go. Chance got that one a little bit further out, but like I said, we did a great job of getting the outside part of the lane burn up there. And as you can see, that shot from Chris Seagraves there, a couple frames ago, that would have gone high, but we're getting that nice little shim going now in the middle part of the lane, and that's gonna give you some flat 10s every once in a while. But generally speaking, on the team pattern, you want to stay. You want to stay as close to the pocket as you can. I mean, if the worst thing that happens is a flat 10, you take that and you move on, and you're happy about it. There we go. Now, Ramsden's getting it going a little bit there. He did switch to the purple hammer. He stayed with it the rest of the time, and that's one from Quentin. He just got it going a little bit right, a little bit too quick. I rolled that one pretty well, and that would have flushed up. The way that I threw that, it would have flushed up a little while ago. But we did get like I said, we started building that shim in the middle of the lane, and it was pretty great here. And again, we just didn't make the best shots that we could have. And again, for me personally, my mechanics aren't the greatest to begin with. I've been putting in a lot of work here recently, and I thought I had put in enough work going into the tournament here, but I got tight, and that's when my arm starts the wing starts showing up. My arm starts getting a little bit too far away from my body, and it creates a really rough swing path. And for some reason, the worst thing in my world is leaking a ball a little bit right. So if I keep my arm in and get through the ball and it leaks a little bit further right than I want it to, that's just apparently the worst thing for my head to handle. So that's when if I'm trying to control my angles, that's when my arm starts flying a little bit, and then all of a sudden I lose all my leverage, and it's just a bad situation to be in. I think I've corrected a little bit of that here recently. So hopefully, now that I'm officially into the urethane game, hopefully that's something that we can work with. So yeah, if you're looking, he got that one just Chaz on the right lane, not the Chaz on the left lane. He got that in just a pinch, but if the worst that happens at Nationals is 4 pins and 10 pins, like that's best case scenario. I mean, if you if you tell me going in that, well, the last 2 games, all you're going to leave is 4 pins and 10 pins, I'd be happy as hell. I mean, everybody would. And that's just again, it's just the little easy stuff like that we get going a little bit too fast, or that was just a little bit in, but 6 pin, pretty easy spare. That looks like a good shot from Aaron. Just a little bit inside. He might have gotten a little bit slower, a little bit inside with that. It's getting off his hand a little bit better. Maybe still just a little bit amped up. It is only halfway through the second game after all. But good spare conversion there. That's of course one of the tougher ones. Even though there's nobody anywhere that likes to shoot that spare on any condition. That's just one of the rougher ones out there. And you can see, I think Bruce is going to change things up here pretty quick because he's a little bit deeper than everybody else is. That's not a bad shot from me. That's okay. Arm was still flying a little bit, but I was rolling a little bit better and the lanes were opening up. Bruce is just a little bit deeper than everybody else, and he naturally, there's a lot of back end. The balls usually fly pretty good for him, so he needs to get the ball away from the pocket to get down the lane. But with the urethane use, I think he's just a little bit in too strong of a ball. He's a little bit too far left. And so I think we talk about that, and he corrects that here in the next few frames. But the 2 main mistakes that I've seen here so far is the early migration to the left, and I think that's apparent on the shots the few shots that get tugged here, is because subconsciously we all kind of know that we're too far left, and if we get the ball going a little bit too far right, it's going to hang and it's not going to make it back, and so that makes us kind of pinch it at the bottom or tug it. And so I think that contributed, the early move too far left, I think, is what contributed to some of the tugs. And there's another one from Quentin there, and I think that's what the younger team got into, is just a little bit, just moving a little bit too deep, a little bit too quick, and then that gives the angle issues. We really did have it set up pretty nice, and like I said, things kind of compound themselves. You leave yourself multiple pin spares or some tougher stuff, and then that turns into missing a few spares, and so I think, okay, here we go. Bruce here has moved back right a little bit. Let's see what he picked. No, it's the same ball. He just moved back right a little bit, and I think, yeah, that now that he's gone back to the right a little bit, I think we get out of that ball and get into something else. I continued to move left, but I do roll the ball enough that actually makes me a little bit more comfortable, and so I think that moving left for me makes me a little bit more comfortable, especially with some of the hold that we got in the middle from the urethane. That helped me out immensely. And so I think at a certain point I get a little bit too deep for the IQ, and so I end up going to the pro motion, which started up a little bit earlier and blended the lane a little bit better. And that was a miss inside, but I think I also kind of dumped that too. So that was more the benefit of the urethane. So again, when people say, well, don't use urethane, you're going to blow a hole in the back end and wreck the shot, I think it's pretty obvious we didn't wreck the shot here. I think it's pretty obvious that the shot's looking pretty nice. I mean, Chance is heating up there. He's got a pretty sweet roll going on, and I think once the kids team settles down back in the third game, we both finish pretty strong. I think we're both at 1900 going into the last game, and we ended up shooting 2960, and they shot 2930, which is a really respectable score. Anytime you get anywhere close to, 2750, 2800 is really not too bad of a score. It's not really where you want to be at, but it's cashing. And cashing at nationals is the first goal to begin with. If you cash, you did better than most people did. And if you get close to 3,000, that's kind of the magical number. That if you get to 3,000 or close to 3,000, you'll always feel like you left something out there, but you can't be too disappointed with it. And ultimately speaking, shooting 2960 and 2940 or 2930 or whatever the kids team shot, it was really a pretty good outing for everybody. So now this one, these guys are starting to fight with angles a little bit. I think Bruce moved back left there, and now he's getting a little bit of the hang. Chaz Nelson on the right lane there, I think he just threw that one a little bit too hard, and like I said, things just kind of built up and compounded themselves. I think they got a little bit antsy and had some angle issues there, and then playing a little bit too much lane there and missing the spare. Pretty good shot out of Ramsden. Yep, gets back up. It's a pretty good shot out of Connor. I think that'll make it. That's right. Not bad though. Again, flat 10. If that's the worst that happens, that's pretty good stuff there. Spare master, look out. Not really. It's a pretty good shot out of Seagraves. Just a little bit, and like I said, and you might be looking at this saying, well, look at what urethane's doing to these guys. It's not the urethane thing. The shot was pretty good. They just got a little bit too far left and were playing a little bit too much angle, a little bit too much lane, which you don't want to do in the first place. That's a little bit in. That's not too bad, though. I think he ended up moving back right and throwing more of the high hard one, and Dallas just got that one a little bit righter, a little bit too quicker. There's a good spare. Getting back on it. Like I said, everybody stayed pretty. You can see smiles everywhere, even though the kids team wasn't having the best game right there. Everybody's still kind of, the morale stayed really high. It stayed really high, and so it was a great group of people that got assembled here, and we all worked pretty well together. That's a little bit right. But all of our styles ended up meshing pretty well together too, and I think the ones that I think we picked up another buddy from Kansas City, Zach Pelton. He's got a really simple game, and he just kind of hits what he's aiming at. So he plays a little bit straighter than most of us do. So I think that interesting. But I think he's going to be a great addition to the team. He'll keep it pretty simple and just hit what he's aiming at. And then hopefully we get the Fanner and Bolds combo. Those are a couple of regional players that are pretty good. There's another one where I just got a little bit fast. I'm playing too much lane, but I'm more comfortable the deeper I get. And so the trade-off for me was leaving makeable spares rather than playing with the tight left to right on the right side of the lane. And I think this is my 10th frame where I just flagged this. Yep. It's one of those where you know you're going to miss it before you get up there because something just not quite right. And it just got a little bit tight on that and just didn't let the ball go. Now Bruce has moved to the black hammer, the black urethane, but I'm not sure that he threw that ball at all in practice. And urethane's one of those things that if you don't throw it in practice and get some oil on it first, it's going to be pretty crazy to start the set out with because urethane is not for dry lanes. And yeah, that's just getting a little bit tight. He had kind of a rough game there, and I think Chance strikes out here, though. Yeah, there we go. A couple good shots for Chance. Connor moved back right a little bit. That was a great move. That was a great shot. That's a pretty good shot, too. That'll get up. There you go. But, yeah, I think once the kids' team figured out that they got a little bit too far left too quick, they started righting the ship, and we just kept doing what we were doing this game. I think I shot 2-0 something, even though I opened the 10th and had another open in there somewhere. I did put enough strikes together to get something good up there, and there you go. Yeah. Yep. That's called breaking the lanes down right. And so, yeah, I think that's one of those area check shots that you're like, yeah, I didn't throw the greatest shot in the world, but it's great for informational purposes, because until you throw a shot like that, you don't know that you actually have that to work with or have that area on the lane to play with. And so area check shots, accidental misses that happen to, those kind of happy accidents, I think can be the best thing in the world sometimes, because it's just great for informational purposes. So now I think here's where the lanes really open up, because the track to the right, oh, there we go, I remember that. Great shot from Seagraves there with the conversion of the Greek church. And that's big because that gives him another test shot or another free shot going into the next game. And yeah, that Dallas is going back to urethane. So yeah, that gave him one more shot to get out a different ball and see what it was going to do there. So, and Chaz just keeps doing what Chaz does, keeping it in both Chaz's really. And I think he's still just Chaz Nelson on the right side there. He's just still figuring out his angles, but I think he gets going pretty good. And I think he shoots 220 something the last game. So he gets it lined back up, and like I said, we just keep doing what we were doing. And I think this is where I think the third game here is where you can find the most information, because by then the lanes have transitioned enough to where you can see whether the strategy worked or it didn't work. You should be coming. Okay, so yeah, we shot 1050 and they shot 890. So we kind of had a reversal of fortunes there, but we're both at 1930 going into that last game, and we all had a great game. There's a couple rough ones on the kids' team. But for the most part, we weathered it well enough. And going in here to the third game, like I said, this is where you find out, because you should be settled in. You should be comfortable. You should know what the lanes are doing. You should know what's going on here. They should, if the plan worked well enough, you should have a pretty great shot out there. And so this is where you really find out what's going on. I think Ramsden went back to his racket. He should have stuck with the purple hammer, and I think that's what they're talking about there. Is I think he ends up going back to the purple hammer, and I think I moved a little bit left here, but I think it's getting a little bit soft. You can see that the last several frames I've left a flat 10. Most of it is how I'm throwing the ball, but it's not really helping me out either. And so Bruce made a ball change there. I think that's a little bit too much ball, but I think he also gets that dialed in. So I think as we move left here, the flatness in the middle of the lane helps the ball hook. We also have the bumper to the right, and we have the shim in the middle too. So there we go. There's a more confident shot, even though I'm still flapping my arm around like Flappy Bird. That's what I need to do. My next jersey, I forgot I was going to get a Flappy Bird jersey. That definitely needs to happen. Definitely need a Flappy Bird jersey. So, and Chance really hasn't moved here the whole time. He just got that one in a little bit. But he stayed on top of it. He's kind of stayed the course. That's got it in just a little bit, but Connor Kotke's got some room now there. He moved back to the right. Dallas gives the supersonic. He drilled a 2-inch supersonic here, and I think he's trying something out, but I think he's going to go back to the pitch black here pretty quick. It was just... Supersonic is just a whole lot of ball to begin with, and then is pretty smooth. And all right, so Seagraves moved back to the right a little bit, He's getting things working. Chaz just Brewer here on the left, the lefty, just has to continue to make shots because his side of the lane isn't breaking down much. And with as flat as the lane is, the urethane's hopefully pushing a little bit of oil down to just give him a little bit of hold in the middle. But that was a great shot. Like I said, on the left side of the lane, it's a little bit simpler, but it's also a little bit tougher because you know what you have to do. It's just the execution every single time. And if you don't have it on the right or on the left side of the lane, sometimes you just don't have it no matter what you do. So thing is, Quentin's gone to something reactive there. I'm not quite sure what he's throwing at the moment. It might be a web tour. But he's gone to something reactive as he likes to get in and roll it just like I do. He's quite a bit better at doing that than I am. But all right, so Bruce is getting warmed up now. Now he's got a little bit of hold in the middle to work with so we can roll a little bit more. Plus we've got a little bit of cushion, a little bit of bumper to the right. So here's where we start looking at ball reaction and going to reactive stuff, and there's a great shot from Ramsden. So here's where we start to see, yes, the strategy paid off. The heavy use of urethane helped build us a shim. Oh, man, I think Connor leaves a couple of those this game. Or I think, actually, there's a couple of stone 8-pins here that are kind of rough. And there I try the pro motion, and I'm just in all kinds of a mess right there. My feet got way too fast, and I tugged it, and then I think I tried the idle pro, even though I know that that's a terrible decision, and yeah, there I knew that I missed that. Just feet going too fast, flying my arm, not comfortable. I think towards the end of the game I do bring it back a little bit. There's a good shot. There's another good shot from Seagraves. Oh yeah, that's what I thought. Back-to-back 8-pins. I thought I remembered that's what happened. But yeah, finding out here that the strategy is really paying off. Having the combination of urethane and the reactive guys. We burned the track up to the right. They created some hold, like I've said, like 9 times now. But I'm trying to reinforce here that anytime, most of the time what happens is that people see the ball hooking. And so the lane's pretty flat. And so people keep moving further left and further left and further left, trying to find the hold on the Nationals team pattern. There's not hold. There's never hold. There's never going to be hold unless you create hold. And so what happens is people get too far left to begin with, and they think they find a shot, and then the lanes start carrying down a little bit, and so all you've done at that point, it's still flat, it's still going to take off if you miss left, but now you've created carry down on the right side of the lane, so you've taken an already flat and tight pattern and you've made it flatter and tighter because there's more oil to the right, there's more hang to the right now, and there's still just as tough and just as flat on the inside. And so those people that are the ones that complain about urethane use on the team pattern are the ones that are playing too far left with too strong of equipment to begin with. So, let's see. Throw the pro motion again here. I think that was a pretty good shot. And now it's just kind of, once I've gone away from the IQ Tour, the angles are just a little bit too steep, especially when it's not really flaring at all, and 5 1/4 inch pin down. It's just not built for angle. It's not built for angle to begin with, but gave the idle pro a shot there to get a little bit of information. I think I tried on one. Yeah, take that back off the rack. That's a terrible decision. Great shot from Bruce. Yeah, there we go. But I think it's just lining up with the pro motion. I wasn't terribly familiar with it yet, but whoa, that's a little bit outside, and that's going to hurt after the spare. But I think he makes the spare here. Yeah, he just gets right back on it. So it's unfortunate to gutter on the spare, but he recovers, he comes back, and he gets the spare, and then we move on to the next frame. And that's all you can really do sometimes. All right, so Dallas has gone back to the pitch black here. That was a good decision. I think I'm going to tinker for another frame or two here, but I think I put 4 or 5 strikes together towards the end of the game before I open yet another 10th frame. That's kind of a heartbreaker for Chaz there. That was a pretty good shot. Maybe in a little bit. There's a good spare. So by this point, again, you see whether your transition strategy worked. Everybody should be warmed up and throwing good shots by now. And so this is the critical game when you can really get the most information. Because by game 3, everything should be working. Everything should be firing on all cylinders. Game 3 is the game where you take advantage of what you've done the first couple games. This is when the kind of intensity of nationals should have worn off by now, and you're just bowling. You're comfortable. You're ready to go. See if the strategy's paying off. And so you can usually be super critical about what happens in the third game. So missing single pin spares in the third game is pretty unacceptable. Bruce just thumbed that one a little bit. You can see at the bottom where he just got out of it a little bit fast. His arm got to the line a little bit quick. But again, if a 2-pin's the worst you leave, oh, this is the Idle Pro shot. Don't do that. You can see it. I mean, it went nuts as soon as I laid it down. So that was a terrible decision to begin with. Shouldn't have even been throwing that ball. Knew I shouldn't have thrown that ball, but I was being kind of contrarian. All right. There's a good spare from Bruce. Hard and fast, don't hook at it. That's a little bit right. But when you throw it that far right, you want it to stay right. You don't want that washout nonsense. And Chance, I think that one, you just a little bit slow on it, and I think that there's enough friction there now that it's starting to kind of catch up with him. He's been able to kind of stay there. Gets the spare, though. As long as they're easy spares, they're hopefully easy to pick up. Another good shot from Seagraves. Doesn't quite get the roll, but again, if that's all you leave, that's what you're shooting for. Another good shot from Dallas there. He's going to finish off a good set for brackets. Pretty good shot from Chaz. Just a little bit fast. A little bit fast, and I think he knew it. Just a little bit fast. And there he's checking with Dallas to see what he saw. That's definitely left. But that's what we call a good miss. On tougher conditions, definitely would rather miss inside. Every once in a while, if you miss just a little bit inside, you're going to deal with a split through the face, but most of the time you either cross over or you leave yourself something makeable. Something that's a whole lot easier to pick up than if you miss right. There's a good shot out of Quentin. He's gone back to the purple hammer. And I think that the lanes have settled down enough for Ramsden there, but still the reactive stuff is just there's so much hook there that it screws with your angles a little bit too much. That's a good shot from Bruce. Yeah, Bruce had a really good game this last one. I think he got settled down and was just throwing good shots. And again, we got the lanes worked in really nicely. So having half the team bend in the lane a little bit with urethane kind of push some hold out there. And the reactive guy's got a track built, so we got both hook. And that was a great shot, and you can see where that started up earlier. So he got it out there to that hook zone that we created. I think that's a good shot. I mean, no, that's a little light. But I got the break. So we get the Brooklyn from the Idle Pro. Then we don't quite get back up the hill with the Pro Motion. But I think that I settled down. That was the shot that really told me, okay, well, I can go on ahead and roll it now. Yep, it gets out there playing that bumper, and then we get the hold down lane from the urethane usage. So the shot got really sweet. I mean, it just got really sweet. There you can see that one from Chance got started up too early. So this is, his heads are going a little bit, but he's the furthest right of anybody right now, except for maybe, no, Chaz Nelson here is still a little bit deeper. And I think he's just getting into some angle issues. He has normally fast feet, but I think he started going a little bit too fast the last game. I think aside from a couple shots like that, he did dial it back in and get things going. Another pretty good shot from Dallas. Oh, get the break. Yeah, buddy. Just a little bit right. Just a little bit right, but it puts a pretty sweet roll on it. He got the roll, so, and then again, Chaz will take that. Not the shot he wanted, but when you make a mistake and that's the worst that happens, you'll definitely take that. And that was just a tug. He knew it. Let's pick up the spare and move on there from Chaz. That's an information shot, and that's one of those that's like, okay, why couldn't I have done that on the first shot? For some reason, it's a whole lot easier to pick up the 1-2 after you've left it than to just hit the pocket on the first shot. Pretty solid shot from Quentin. There you go. I think this is a better shot from me. That was better. Yeah, there we go. Now I think after those couple of terrible shots that I got great breaks on, I think I settle in here for a couple shots here at the end, and they're not great shots, but they're better than I've been throwing the entire set so far. It's a little bit right from Bruce, but 2-8's not bad. He'll take that and move on. Here I think Chance has made the adjustment. Not quite enough yet. I think things kind of... he didn't have to change much the first couple games. And then I think this last game, once he started moving into everybody else's transition, it was move a little bit left, and then, oh, that's still too much. Move a little bit further left, still too much. That was just slow. That was just a little slow from Connor there. Yeah, he said what he knew he got slow. Another great shot from Dallas. I'm pretty sure Connor makes this spare, so nope. Not quite. Got a little bit fast with it. I think that there was maybe I'm thinking of doubles and singles where something like that happened. He backed off and then made a nice little recovery there. And Chaz tried to move in just a little bit there, it looked like, and roll it more, but that's rarely works for lefties. Opening up angles is usually not the best thing. Oh, man. Then there's another, yeah. And at this point, these guys are a little frustrated because they've had that's 3 8-pins on that lane. 2 of them for Seagraves just in this game. And I think, yeah, just a little bit of footwork issue there for Chaz, which that's understandable every once in a while. Picks up the spare. We did have a few, again, we had a few miscues this last game. Could have made some better shots. The shot was definitely there for it. So I think we know going forward into this year, 100% that we had a great strategy. Great lane, just a great strategy. The lanes broke down nicely. We just didn't take enough advantage of it. Another pretty good shot from Bruce. That'll make it up the hill, yep. Solid spare there from Chaz Nelson. I think expect a better shot out of Connor here. That's a little bit left. A little bit left, and that's a tough spare. I think this is the point where we were still trying to stay a little bit further right, but this is the point where I think that we could have gone on ahead and moved. Oh, got the break. Get the break on the spare. Yeah. Don't know what hit it, but we don't care at this point. We got the spare. It's got to sit. There you go. That might have been my best shot. Best shot of the day. And that's one of those I wasn't counting on making a good shot. And so I actually made a good shot. accidentally and got it just shot it through the spot. That was 100% on me, because the shot before hooked. I was a little bit slower with it, and I thought, you know what, I'm starting to get comfortable here. And then I just shot it right through the break point. So several bad breaks for Seagraves this game. Just a little bit high for that 4-9, and then a couple of stone 8 pins, or that could have been quite a bit higher for them. Chances Mr. Even Keel. He's not going to go low very often, and most of the time makes it work out. There you go. Got it inside a little bit, but that's kind of the natural. You know, I think he got the last one on that lane a little bit right, and so the natural tendency, whether you want it to be or not, is to tug the next one. That's left. Another 5-pin. Yep. He makes it though, so we won't be buying drinks. I think he misses one though in doubles and singles. I was going through watching these, and I actually used in my pitch black in-depth video, I did use some Nationals footage from Chance and Dallas. And I think I was going back through the singles and doubles footage looking for stuff, and I think that I do remember Ramsden having to buy us a round of drinks there. And here's where all right, I'm pretty sure we're in the 10th frame, and I throw another good enough shot that I just kind of stun a 7-pin on. Yep, just way too. Nope, not yet. Not yet. So yeah, there I think I've got a 5-bagger by now, and with a Brooklyn, a really light splasher, and then a rolled 2-pin. So, and then that's just a mistake. There we go. Oh man, almost the stunner 7-9 there. But yeah, he's recovered there. I think he's locked in for the last couple frames. Bruce has settled in pretty nice. Oh yeah, and he just overthought that one. Overthought it, got a handful of it, and sometimes you get going a little bit too well, and that makes you start thinking about it. It's like, hey, I've got a great game going here. And then you try to make a perfect shot instead of just making the best shot you can and letting what happens. Because obviously, Connor and Chris Seagraves have made a couple of really great shots this game that were 8 pins. So there's another pretty good shot. A little bit too much lane there for Dallas on that one, but again, leaving easy spares is the name of the game here. That's pretty good. Yeah, and see what he did? Yeah, he threw it exactly how he wanted to. He just fed it to our trough that we created right there. He just put it right into the get it right early and let it bounce off that friction, and then kind of funnel it right into the pocket with all that urethane hold down there. That was the perfect example of what we set the lanes up for and what we wanted to do. Feed it right and let it walk into the pocket. So that shot right there for me, more than anything else, tells us yes, that's the yes shot. When it's right off your hand, you feed it right into the trough and it walks in. That's definite confirmation to me that that's exactly what we wanted to see once we got into the last game here. Nice recovery for Quentin there, getting the spare. That's a good adjustment from Ramsden. Just a little bit slow down the lane, but he moved a little bit left and rolled a little bit more. A little bit too far right from Bruce there, but he definitely doesn't shortchange it at the bottom, so got it back from the outside. And as you can also see, the urethane guys are playing the break point a little bit closer to the pocket than the reactive guys are. And that's just, yeah, that's just a mistake there. That's just a Ramsden. That happens every once in a while. Another great shot from Connor. And see, that's the same thing that Seagraves did the frame before on the left lane. Fed it out to the right early and then watched it walk in. That's not a terrible shot. Well, yeah, it was a terrible shot. Never mind. Yeah, I just flat chucked that through the spot. I didn't do what those guys were doing. That's a little bit left. A little bit left. But yeah, I didn't do what everybody else was doing. I was playing way too much of the middle part of the lane. I should have been further right and feeding it to that spot like the other guys were doing. Same mistakes will not be made again this year. I may not throw the ball any better, but I'm not going to make the same mistakes. And it's one thing to kind of try and remember what happened at Nationals the year before, but actually having this to sit down and watch several times is going to be really nice to reinforce what we did and what happened there. Chaz Brewer buys the videos every single year, and so I just kind of went, there's a couple of us that went in with him to get the video here, and so having this and being able to put this up for the other guys that didn't go last year to watch, and maybe it'll even help you out a little bit if you've had some trouble with lane transition strategy, what to do going into it. Again, the most common mistake for everybody is to have a plan. We're going to stay right, we're going to transition the lanes, and then you get a shot or two into the game and the ball's hooking too much, and you panic and you start thinking about score in game 1 instead of score in game 2 or game 3. You just have to stay home and do what you do. Follow the plan. Even we had a great plan. We got a little bit antsy, but we recovered really nicely here the last game. Obviously, there's some mistakes. There's some shots that just weren't good enough. So what it really boils down to is... stay home a little bit longer. Don't get quite so antsy. Focus on games 2 and games 3, what we're doing with the shot and the transition. Stay close to the pocket. Yeah, here's the yep. Flag the arm. Weak mixer 7. And I'm like, well, we're not going to hook at this one. We're going to throw it straight. Because I don't want to... That's a pretty good shot. Pretty good shot from Bruce there. He had a good game. We're not going to leak it right. We're not going to leak it right. We're just going to tug the piss out of it. And then what's even worse is that the next morning I went and bowled the Bowler's Journal and promptly opened the first 10th frame, or the 10th frame of the first game at that set as well. So, oh man, that's rough from Chance. And a little bit left, but that'll cap off a good game for Bruce. Pretty good shot from Connor. A little bit firm, but that's, again, he fed it right to the trough that we created. No, that's a great shot. Just a little bit firm again, though. Just a little bit firm, but you can see the idea. You can see what we did there. There's another pretty good shot from Chance. Just a little bit slow. And I think at that point he was trying to give it a run, but when you go to Nationals and there's 10,000 teams bowling, I think this year there's going to be like 10-5 or something like that, but when there's that many teams bowling, every single pin matters. Every single pin matters. There's a pretty good shot. Crush. He could have carried an 8-pin that game, not left a 4-9. He'd have been in the 230s, 240s, I think. Finishing out a solid campaign for Dallas there. And see, look at that. Look at that. That was dead right out of his hands. and that recovered and came back. Good shot to finish things off for Dallas. He had a pretty good set. I think he was in the... Yeah. Another pretty good shot from Chris to finish that off. And you can really see it's so well illustrated on those 3 shots right there. He got the first shot was probably a little bit further left than he wanted, but we got the hold. That tells you the lanes were set up perfect, and he was in the right part of the lane. The next one he got pretty far right pretty quick, and it came back, and the next one was right in the middle. It was right exactly what you wanted to do. So it didn't quite turn into a house shot, but they got pretty easy. And so there's really no excuses this last game. We just had some missed shots. Here's a good spare. We missed some shots. Had some bad shots. We missed some easy spares. Myself included. I threw it terrible and shot 570. So if I throw it halfway decent, I'm 650 or 660. That was a little bit inside, but he got the nice little holding penalty. And here we look at the scores. 29-60, 29-10. Dallas had a great set. And that's where we're gonna leave it here. I hope you enjoyed this. I know that we're gonna enjoy going back and, well, maybe not fully enjoy going back and watching some of the mistakes we made, but overall it was a great time. I'm looking forward to it again next year. Thanks for